First comes the blood, leaking out of every orifice on your body. Your eyes, nose, ears, even finger and toenails where the skin is thinner. Next comes the aching. It's normally just random. Could be your leg, or a toe, or a neck, but there's always aching after the bleeding. After that, your joints itch. I mean, really itch. It doesn't take long to scratch and normally subside, but it's almost painful to not scratch. That's just how itchy it can be. After the bleeding, aching, and itching, things get worse. Way, way worse. Your skin begins to rot. Not like in the movies. More like slowly, with each layer fading away until only 2 or 3 remain. Now this will make you very delicate. Your skin will break easily and bleed quite heavily, but at this point, strangely, it never really is that fatal. It's like the blood just comes back before the blood loss actually kills you. The wounds heal really fast too. Maybe because there's less skin to replace? I really don't know. Because your skin is much thinner, it'll be practically transparent. It turns a brownish maroon color. Now either 3 things will happen in random sequence at this point. Your hair will fall out, your eyes will shrink back into your head, or your muscle will deteriorate rapidly. I'll start with your eyes. First, your pupils will enlarge to the point where there's no iris left, and then they will shrink down to the size of a lid cap and sink far into your head, creating a crater where they used to be. Your muscle tissue will start to swell at first, creating large sacs around your limbs and neck. After that, the sacs shrink, and the rest of your muscle begins to disappear, leaving you skeletal. At this point, large shreds of your hair will fall out and turn black before it leaks a foul-smelling, thick liquid from it. Your fingers will begin to harden, painfully pushing your nails out from itself until they fall to the ground and dissolve just like the hair. It will be bad enough as is, but this is where the grand finale kicks in. What was your lips and nose slide right off your face, shedding away until there was just 2 dirty rows of teeth and 2 holes where your nose used to be. The tongue would turn black and grow like a tree out of your mouth, with spines and branches leaking from your face, or at least what is left of it. Since the deterioration of your muscles, everything was extremely weak, barely being able to lift an apple or fork. After a while, it got so bad it would take all the effort and strength, or lack thereof, to stand still and just breathe. Sometimes you just stop breathing, willfully. It's understandable. If you can hardly sit still and heave your lungs to move, what's the point of carrying on? I never said you die, though. I never said you'd stop breathing, jump off a cliff, slit your throat, get crushed, stabbed, shot, eaten, clawed, burned. Nothing will work. Not even age will kill you anymore. I should have killed myself when I could still die. I should have freed my family when I had the chance. So when you feel a scratch in your joints, or a nosebleed, or an ache randomly, save as many as you can. Save yourself. Don't turn into one. And don't live to become one. I have a confession to make. It's a secret I've never told anyone before, and it's kind of disturbing. So, if you are squeamish, well, if you're squeamish, then you shouldn't be in the sub in the first place, then should you? My brother and I used to be very close when we were young. He used to love having a little sister, but as we grew older, things changed. Over time, my brother would hang out with me less and less. Then he began to do mean things. Like this one time, Dad had made us sandwiches, and we were eating them in the kitchen. My brother sat across the table and was giving this mischievous smile. I didn't think anything about it at first, but until I got a strange texture in my mouth. When I opened the sandwich up and looked inside, I was horrified to find there were dead bugs smushed into the peanut butter. Worms! I had already eaten half the sandwich and instantly threw up all over my plate, along with my breakfast. I could see worms in my vomit. I've never seen my brother laugh so hard. I hated him after that. There were other bad things, far too many to list here, but that was the worst. I was so mad at him that I scoured the garden for the most disgusting bugs I could find. I collected earthworms, ants, granddaddy longlegs, and whatever else I could find, and put them all into a mason jar. My plan was to dump the bugs on him at night while he was sleeping. I giggled to myself as I imagined them crawling all over him as he slept. After a little while, I found a worm unlike any I had ever seen before. It was delightfully disgusting, much more disgusting than all the other bugs combined. It was thick and slimy. Its color was dark brown with little orange dots all over. As soon as I saw it, I laughed to myself, imagining how horrified my brother would be waking up with this huge worm slithering in his underwear. I put it in the jar with the rest of the bugs and hid it in my closet. All I had to do was wait. 2 days later, my opportunity presented itself. My brother was grounded, so his bedtime was earlier than mine. I peeked in at him as I went to bed at 9. And he was sound asleep. So, I tiptoed into my room and grabbed the jar. To my surprise, the only bug in the jar was that weird brown worm. All the others had vanished. And that's very strange, is what I was thinking at first, but I was unnerved thinking that maybe the bugs escaped somehow, but that would have been impossible. The lid was sealed tight. The only explanation is that the freakish worm must have eaten all the others. That was quite disturbing. And it was definitely bigger, too. That's okay. This bug is far more disgusting than all the other ones put together. When I picked up the mason jar, I heard what sounded like a hissing noise. It actually hissed at me. I didn't know worms could hiss, but apparently this one did. This was definitely the creepiest bug I had ever seen. My plan was to put it into my brother's undies. That would have been so funny, but unfortunately, I didn't think it was possible to do so without waking him, because I'd have to take the covers off and reach down there. So I did the next best thing. Using a pair of salad tongs from the kitchen, I ever so carefully placed the worm on the side of my brother's face. I giggled to myself as I watched the worm wiggle there on his cheek, leaving a mess of rotten slime. It made another hissing noise, but thankfully my brother was a very deep sleeper and didn't wake up. It tried to slither off his face, but I wouldn't let it off. Each time it was about to slide onto the pillow, I carefully grabbed it with the tongs and placed it back on my brother's head. After a few minutes of this, the worm stopped trying to climb off. Instead, it seemed interested in my brother's ear, perhaps looking for a dark place to hide. Yes, that's so perfect! Go down there, little wormy. Please go down there. I whispered eagerly to it. I giggled as the worm explored deeper into his ear canal and prayed that he wouldn't wake up too soon. Then, to my great amusement, the worm began to wriggle deeper into his ear. I put my hand over my mouth to hold my laughter in as it oozed inside. The thing was really quite large, so I didn't think it could possibly fit, but remarkably, after not so much time at all, it was all the way in there. Soon it was so deep, I couldn't even see it anymore. I have no clue how such a large worm could have possibly slipped in so easily into his tiny little ear, but I was so happy it did. Good. I'm glad. Serves you right, you big mean jerk. I whispered to him. I hope that worm stays in there forever. That next morning was Saturday. Everyone slept in but me. I was too excited to see my brother. I was wanting to hear him scream. I wanted to see him with an upset face. Initially, I was very disappointed when that didn't happen. At first, I didn't notice anything. I thought that maybe the worm must have crawled out when I went back to bed. However, it was soon obvious that something was different about my brother. I first noticed it when he sat down and watched cartoons. Usually we start off fighting about what we were going to watch, but this time he didn't fight with me at all. He seemed perfectly content to sit there and watch only the shows I wanted, girly shows that he would normally not tolerate at all. Then I noticed other things too, like if I told him to do something, he would just do it. At first I just asked him for more room on the couch so I could lie down, and he got off of it completely and sat on the hardwood floor. My old brother would have never done that. He would have just pushed me off the couch. Then I asked him for the remote, and he just gave it to me. Eventually, I realized the extent of these changes. Basically, to my great amusement, my old brother would do anything I told him to. He never complained. He never talked back. Of course, I took advantage of this. What sister wouldn't? I made him do funny things to see how far he'd go. Made him eat bugs in the garden. Now that was so funny. I made him eat all sort of gross things. Instead of going out with friends, I made him play Barbies with me all day long. Of course, Mom and Dad noticed too. The doctors they brought him to never found the worm. They couldn't find anything. That's good. I like my brother so much better this way. It's been a couple of years since then. My brother had to transfer to a special school for stupid kids. My parents think it's sweet of me to play with him despite his mysterious cognitive decline. He's in my room right now as I write this, staring at me blankly. There's a bit of drool dripping from his lower lip, but he doesn't seem to notice that at all. We're playing dress up, and he's a Barbie princess. I put makeup and lipstick on him, and he looks so silly. I can't help but laugh at him. TLDR. I turn my big, mean brother into a drooling idiot who does whatever I ask him to. So, I've been dating my girlfriend for almost a year, and last month we moved in together. Now, maybe that's kind of fast, I don't know. My parents sure thought it was, but honestly, everything was great in the beginning, and, well, we got along really well. And we never had more than like a brief argument, so anyway. But then she started whistling. It's so dumb, I know, but she's always whistling this weird song, and it gets on my nerves, like, really bad. My mom kept telling me that once you move in with someone, you'll discover all the quirks they've been hiding from you. And it's not like I didn't expect that to be true, I don't know, but for some reason, this is just an ongoing issue with us, and I don't know what to do. At first, I would just hear her whistling whenever she was in the shower. You know, it was kind of cute. It was like her own little bathroom theme song. I didn't recognize the melody, but it was very distinct. I could mimic it from memory if I wanted to, in fact. Sometimes, it gets stuck in my head, and it drives me a little crazy. I mean, you know the type of song. Anyway, after a week or so, I asked her what the song was, and she just laughed. I'm wondering if maybe she came up with it on her own, something that she does absently, especially once she starts doing it more. Like, I'd be reading a book, and she'd be on the computer, and she'd just start whistling. And I tried to ignore it. I seriously feel like a dick for being so grumpy about it. And I know she wasn't doing it to annoy me, but she'd just go on, and it would pull my attention away from whatever I was doing. So finally, I said something a few nights ago. I was going over some legal documents for work, and she starts whistling like crazy on, and I'm trying to just block it out. But it's seriously excessive. Like, I know you guys are probably thinking that I was overreacting, but I felt like she was whistling right into my ear, and it just frayed my last bit of patience. As calmly and as nicely as I could, I called out to her and asked if she could quiet down. She didn't reply. I asked her again, and she still didn't answer. So I left the bedroom and found her in the living room, watching a movie. She wasn't whistling anymore, and for some reason that really irked me. It felt like she was messing with me. And she just looked over at me like she didn't know what the deal was. I asked her if she could stop whistling so much, and she told me she wasn't whistling. Now, I get that maybe she doesn't realize she's doing it, but no one whistles that much and doesn't notice. It's not really like her to mess with me like that, and I don't know what she's trying to get out of this. I thought maybe she was teasing or playing a joke, but she had to see how annoyed I was. I asked her again to just not whistle so loudly, and she didn't answer. There was tension in the room, and it felt like our first fight since moving in together. Even though she didn't whistle for the rest of the night, I couldn't focus on my work anyway because I was just so upset about the confrontation. Then, of course, the next night, she was whistling again. I hear her when she comes home from work, and she keeps going for at least an hour. I didn't want to have another fight, so I just hung out in the bedroom and listened to her move around for a while. I felt like I was blowing things out of proportion, but honestly, how hard is it to just not whistle all the time? It's no big deal when it was now and then, but I feel like she whistles more than she talks to me now, so I'm sitting up in the room thinking about that, and that's probably why I was worked up when I finally came down. She was cooking dinner, which is sweet, but she was still whistling. So I said, softly, "Hey, honey, maybe we should put on some music instead of you whistling." I tried to play it off like a joke, but I knew she'd probably see through it and get annoyed at me. Again, she didn't even turn to face me. She just huffed and kept cooking. After a minute, I told her I was sorry about the other night, but the whistling just sort of strikes my ear wrong. And if she could try to not whistle so much and so loudly, it would make my life a lot easier. I feel like I was being fair. I know it seems controlling and nitpicky, but it was bothering me a lot. We all have our things, you know, and I try not to chew loudly at the table because it bothers her, so why can't she just stop whistling sometimes for me? But she totally freaked out. She turned around and told me she wasn't whistling and she didn't know what my problem was. At this point, I don't get why she was doing this. It was obvious it wasn't funny for either of us. She seemed genuinely upset, so I don't know why she kept provoking me. I asked her what her deal was and why she was so defensive about the stupid whistling, and she told me to shut up. She told me she was sick of talking about it, like I was the one being unreasonable. I never get mad at her, but I just snapped. I told her to stop whistling before I lost my mind. She called me crazy just because I was getting a little upset, and somehow that was all I could take. I grabbed one of the cast iron pots from the stove and I swung it at her head as hard as I could. She fell over and smashed her head on the counter, but I swung the pan again before she hit the ground. I think I hit her maybe 3 or 4 times. I don't remember. But I feel horrible. There was blood everywhere and her jaw might be broken. No, I think for sure it is. I couldn't believe I lost my temper like that, and I have no idea how we can move past this. I feel so ashamed for letting things get physical, regardless of how she might have been provoking me. But here's the kicker. She's still fucking whistling, and I asked her nicely to please stop, but now she won't even pause. For 2 days, she's been lying on the kitchen floor with her eyes rolled back and her mouth hanging open, just marinating in congealed blood, and she's still fucking whistling, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to break up with... Oh, this is just too much. I just need her to shut up. Just 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 shut up! At midnight, I hear it knocking. Not knowing who or what it is when I hear it. But I hide when I hear it because when it sees me, it whispers my name. I have seen its bloodthirsty eyes that stare deep into the core of my soul. It has tried to open the window, but I make sure that it's locked. It began to come at midnight when I was 7. I told my parents about the thing at my window, but they were just too drunk to care. The first time it came, I was so afraid my instincts were telling me to run, but I chose to hide under my covers each night, and after that it kept showing up at my window, and each time I would hide, like a child. I went to stay with a friend one night when I was 9, and I forgot to lock my window, so when I came home, my dog at the time was gone. Taken. I blame myself every day after that. When I turned 14, it was the worst night of my life. It had become restless and began to bang as hard as it could. It shook the window with such force of God that I cried out, but no one came. No one came to help me, and I just hid, crying the whole night, too afraid of the thing at my window. Years later, I still hide, but tonight I think it's finally going to take me. But I'm not going down without a fight. I've took a knife from the kitchen and I've hidden it on my pillow. If I don't post again, I've most likely been taken by it. If you hear banging at your window at night, please just run from the creature in the dark. During the summer of 2003, events in the northeastern United States involving a strange human-like creature sparked brief local media interest before an apparent blackout was enacted. Little or no information was left intact. Most online and written accounts of the creature were mysteriously destroyed. Primarily focused in the rural New York State and once found in Idaho, self-proclaimed witnesses told stories of their encounters with a creature of unknown origin. Emotions ranged from extremely traumatic levels of fright and discomfort to an almost childlike sense of playfulness and curiosity. While their published versions are no longer on record, the memories remained powerful. Several of the involved parties began looking for answers later that year. In early 2006, the collaboration had accumulated nearly 24 documents dating between the 12th century and present day, spanning 4 continents. In almost all cases, the stories were identical. I've been in contact with a member of this group and was able to get some excerpts from their upcoming book. A suicide note, dated 1964. As I prepare to take my life, I feel it necessary to massage any guilt or pain I have introduced to this act. It is not the fault of anyone other than him. For once, I awoke and felt his presence. And once I awoke and saw his form, and once again I heard his voice, and looked into his eyes. I cannot sleep without fear of what I might next awake to. I cannot ever wake. Goodbye. Found in the same wooden box were 2 empty envelopes addressed to William and Rose, and 1 loose personal letter with no envelope. Dearest Lenny, I have prayed for you. He spoke your name. A journal entry, translated from Spanish, dated 1880. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I see his eyes when I close mine. They are hollow, black. They saw me and pierced me. His wet hand, I will not sleep. His voice. The rest is unintelligible text. A mariner's log, dated 1691. He came to me in my sleep. From the foot of my bed I felt a sensation. He took everything. We must return to England. We shall not return here again at the request of the ring. From an eyewitness account in 2006. 3 years ago, I had just returned from a trip to Niagara Falls for the 4th of July with my family. We were all very exhausted after a long day of driving, so my husband and I put the kids right to bed and called it a night. However, about 4 a.m., I woke up thinking my husband had gotten up to use the restroom. I used the moment to steal back the sheets, only to wake him in the process. I apologized and told him I thought he got out of bed. When he turned to face me, he gasped and pulled his feet up from the end of the bed so quickly his knee almost knocked me out of the bed. He then grabbed me and said nothing. After adjusting to the dark for half a second, I was able to see what caused the strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting and facing away from us, there was what appeared to be a naked man with, or maybe a large hairless dog of some sort. Its body position was disturbing and unnatural, and it was as if it had been hit by a car or something. For some reason, I was not instantly frightened by it, but more concerned as to its condition. At some point, I was somewhat under the assumption that we were supposed to help him. My husband was peering over his arm and knee, tucked into the fetal position, occasionally glancing at me before returning to the creature. In a flurry of motion, the creature scrambled out of the side of the bed and then crawled quickly in a flailing sort of motion right along the bed until it was less than a foot away from my husband's face. The creature was completely silent for about 30 seconds. Or, well, probably closer to 5. It just seemed like a while. But it was just looking at my husband. The creature then placed its hand on his knee and ran into the hallway leading to the kids' room. I screamed and ran for the light switch, planning to stop him before he hurt my children. When I got to the hallway, the light from the bedroom was enough to see. It crouched and hunched over about 20 feet away. He turned around and looked directly at me, covered in blood. I flipped the switch on the wall and saw my daughter, Clara. The creature ran downstairs while my husband and I rushed to help our daughter. She was very badly injured and spoke only once more in her short life. She said, "He is the rake." My husband drove his car into a lake that night while rushing my daughter to the hospital. They did not survive. Being a small town, news got around pretty quickly, and the police were helpful at first, and the local newspaper took a lot of interest as well. However, the story was never published, and the local television news never followed up either. For several months, my son Justin and I stayed in a hotel near my parents' house. After we decided to return home, I began looking for answers myself. I eventually located a man in the next town over who had a similar story. We got in contact and began talking about our experiences. He knew of 2 other people in New York who had seen the creature that we now refer to as the rake. It took the 4 of us about 2 solid years of hunting on the internet and writing letters to come up with a small collection of what we believe to be accounts of the rake. None of them give any details, history, or follow-up. One journal had an entry involving a creature in its first 3 pages and never mentioned it again. A ship's log explained nothing of the encounter, saying only that they were told to leave by the rake. That was the last entry in the log. There were, however, many instances where the creature's visit was one of a series of visits with the same person, multiple people also mentioning being spoken to, my daughter included. This led us to wonder if the rake had visited any of us before our last encounter. I set up a digital recorder near my bed and left it running all night, every night for 2 weeks. I would tediously scan through the sounds of me rolling around in my bed each day when I woke up. By the end of the 2nd week, I was quite used to the occasional sound of sleep while blurring through the recording at 8 times the normal speed. This still took almost an hour every day. On the first day of the 3rd week, I thought I heard something different. What I found was a shrill voice. It was the rake. I can't listen to it long enough to even begin to transcribe it. I haven't let anyone listen to it yet. All I know is that I've heard it before, and now I believe that it spoke when it was sitting in front of my husband. I don't remember hearing anything at the time, but for some reason, The voice of the recorder immediately brings me back to that moment. The thoughts that must have gone through my daughter's head make me very upset. I have not seen the rake since he ruined my life, but I know that he has been in my room while I slept. I know and fear that one night I will wake up to see him staring at me. You there, sitting behind the computer screen, listening to this. You have clicked on this page expecting a ritual, right? Well, it's all in the title, of course. Well, I've got an interesting one for you. A ritual that I myself created and am willing to share with you. Now, imagine this. Babies, within a room, screaming and crying at the top of their lungs. Imagine a busy subway train where nobody seems to know how to keep their damn mouths shut. Perhaps your apartment neighbor is too busy playing his loud, obnoxious music upstairs to realize that people like you need their beauty sleep. Seeing a common thread here? The world is so full of noise these days that it seems like there's never a place on earth where one can relax. But what if there was? What if there was a place you could retreat to at any time you like and escape from reality? Well, perhaps I could offer you a solution to your problem. There are no catches or drawbacks. You'll be getting exactly what you desire. And if you follow my instructions, you should be, relatively safe. Ready to try it? Well, here it goes. Firstly, you'll want to set up your preparations. You shouldn't need too much to practice this ritual, and you can set it up with common household items. You'll want to make sure you have a decent pair of soundproof headphones, a rose, a blindfold, or any material that can cover your sight, and a bag of ice. Also, although not required, I recommend you bring some duct tape. See, I told you it didn't take that much to perform this ritual. Now, it doesn't matter when or where you perform this ritual, but it is imperative that you go alone. If you go in groups, believe it or not, the trials will become harder and more dangerous for reasons that will become very obvious as you go on. Now, in order to make this whole wacky ritual work, you're going to need to start performing as soon as I read off the procedures. As soon as you completely read through the procedures yourself, you have officially begun the ritual. That's right, this is where the first official instruction comes into play. By continuing to read past this point, you have agreed to continue on with this ritual. As soon as you start reading the procedures, you are locked in for good. Warning, do not skip reading the procedures and look at the paragraphs below them. If you do so, it is a sign to the higher powers that you do not wish to respect this sacred art. And they will steal your 5 senses and leave you helpless. Yes, this ritual has dangers such as this. If you do not follow my directions, and yes, being eternally robbed of your senses is as torturous as it sounds. Procedures. Cover the windows and lock the doors. You and the optional, although not recommended, group of people you are practicing the ritual with would rather not be disturbed after this ritual commences. Find a bed or a seat to lay or sit in. Make this place of rest comfortable, as your physical body will possibly be in that position for prolonged periods of time, and you wouldn't want to find yourself covered in aches and pains, now would you? Set the items and materials collected before the ritual in a square formation around you. Now, think of the moments in your life which made you want to try this ritual in the first place. Perhaps a dinner date with a special someone was ruined because of a loud and obnoxious restaurant patron seated beside you. Maybe a small child crying in a movie theater, ruining your experience for you. Whatever the case may be, try to ingrain that memory into your head. Picture that moment and imagine the sounds, the smells, and the emotions within the memory. And after you have done this, try to recreate the way you felt in that moment. Perhaps you were sad, or maybe anxiety or aggravation overcame you and swept all sense of joy away. Finally, open your eyes and look around you. Cup the bag of ice in your hands and place the duct tape over your mouth. Place the headphones over your ears and place the blindfold over your eyes. It is important you do these steps in order, for that is the order in which the trials await you. Finally, pick up the rose and give it a whiff. With that, you will have finished steps to begin the ritual. Hello there. If you are listening and haven't read the procedures beforehand, expect to be stripped of your senses relatively soon. I hate to be blunt, but I did warn you, and, well, you shouldn't disrespect the ritual. Should it be due that you are not heeding my warning, or simply you not caring about your life in general, it is your decision that brought you here. However, if you broke the rules, you might as well use what time you have left of your sight and sanity to view what else this ritual has to behold. Now, if you did follow my instructions, then congratulations, you have now officially begun the ritual. Although these words are still on the screen of whatever device or pamphlet you used before, they are also being transcribed into your mind by me. By following through with the ritual, you have allowed me into your mind, and now I shall be your official guide through this journey. A Jiminy Cricket of sorts, except for the fact that if you don't follow my instructions verbatim, the worst fate you'll encounter won't just be making you a literal ass. Now, look around you. When you put on the blindfolds, you lost your ability to see, and your perception of the world got dark. But can you tell what you're seeing isn't the same darkness as the blinding material covering your eyes? Can't you? Go ahead. Reach out into the darkness before you. Reach straight ahead and feel along the surface of whatever it is you just touched. When you feel the switch, go ahead and give it a flick upward. There, that's better. The light above you should have lit up. Please ignore the flickering of the light. There aren't exactly the best technicians in this new reality you've just entered. Welcome to the places where senses make no sense. A place where somewhere between your subconscious and whatever different dimensions exist. Now, approach the far right corner of the wall. See the skeleton over there? See its hollowed bones and the black mucus dripping down from its ribcage? Go ahead and reach inside of its jaw. You may have to pry its mouth open a bit, but due to the decay of the bone, it should be easy enough to crack it open. Go on, it's not like a dead man can feel pain. There, now, do you see the key inside of its mouth? Take it from the skeleton and turn around. There before you should be a door that wasn't there before. If you want to enter it, put the key into the keyhole and turn the knob. You are now unlocking the full extent of this new world where you currently reside. Step through the doorway with caution, though. You are about to start the first trial. You've now stepped through the doorway, and I bet you can't figure out what your first trial is. Well, not at first anyway. Here, I'll give you a hint. Pinch your arm as hard as you can. No, really, pinch it. Pinch it with the intent to inflict pain upon yourself. You can't, can you? Your sense of pain and touch have been retracted. The room you're in should be fairly well lit. In fact, the setting should look fairly familiar to you. Most people either describe the setting as a school hallway of sorts, while others usually see a psychiatric ward or corridor. In all honesty, I personally don't consider the setting to be much of importance. Now, what may be important to you is what you're hearing right now. Do you hear it? It may seem faint at first, but surely you can hear it becoming louder ever so slowly. I can assure you that moist gurgling sounds and the scraping of feet coming towards you is not just all in your imagination. Down the dark hall is a creature that has come for you. Now, I can sense your heart is racing, and you have two choices. You can run in the opposite direction, or you can stand there and stare at your impending doom in the face. I do recommend the first option, because only a fool would stick around to see the monstrosity coming for him. And as you may have guessed, you aren't the first one to come across this ritual. There have been others, and they desire the same as you. A place of silence. A resort of quietness where one can escape to for peace. However, there are creatures within this place that desire things as well. You find it strange to run, don't you? You can't feel the rush of wind against your skin. You can't feel your feet pounding on the ground. It's like you're weightless here. It's almost as if you don't physically exist. I wouldn't recommend stopping because of this, though. Letting that thing catch you could cost you an arm and a leg, give or take some extra skin. And Lord knows, that thing could use those. You should be coming across the end of the hall by this point. You see the 3 doors? Rush to them and try and open them. No matter which door you try to open first, it will be the last door you attempt to open, which will be the one that is unlocked. Go ahead, try and get out of here before that thing catches up to you. Oh, and should I mention the door handles are molten hot. It's a good thing you can't feel searing pain coursing through your body, but I'm sure you can see your skin begin to melt and the bubbles begin to rise and pop on your hand and arm with each grip of the doorknob. It's funny, isn't it, that you should be rolling on the floor right now, crying in pain as the melted and charred skin burns like hellfire, tearing your flesh and tissue apart. But no, you just opened the last door and passed through the first trial. Congratulations. That wasn't so hard, was it? Now, do you see that room around you? Another small room with a flickering light in it, but in the center of the room is a glass panel, and below that glass panel seems to be a pit of darkness with no end to it. Just the type of eternal pit of misery and despair that one would want to dive into, right? Well, I don't see you having much of a choice, considering the door won't be able to keep the monster out for long. Oh, you thought he was a one-time deal. Afraid not. There should be a gray sledgehammer in one of the corners of the room. There, the left corner behind you. Pick it up and smash the glass floor. I suggest you hurry. I'm sure I'm not the only one who can hear those long tongues scraping and scratching at the door. There, one last hit, and then you'll plummet below. Ready? Now jump! Oh, what, you thought I would deprive you of your sense of touch for this whole time? No, I'm not that inhumane. Yes, I see you clutching your arm as the pain of sensation of hot iron rods pierce your flesh. Still, there's no time to sit and sob. Stand up and look around you. Everything seems normal, right? You're now in a plain, open field. Take in the smell of the dandelions at your feet. Listen as the birds chirp and feel the wet grass underneath your toes. Now, look up at the sky. Enjoy the blue skies and fluffy white clouds above you, because that paradise will be short-lived. Look again. No fields, no dandelions, no blue skies. Just you inside of a cold, damp stone room. Puddles of filthy mud and water randomly sprinkled about. And in the center of that room is a peculiar table with a plate on it. Approach it. Go on, the plate won't bite. No, you'll be doing all the biting here. Look down at the plate. Look at all those slimy, wriggling worms. Look at the twitching moths and maggots squirming about and writhing in crazy fashion. Do you see them? They are in pain. They're dying a slow, painful death. I understand fully that these beings are considered below you, but you surely must have sympathy for the living creatures. Put them out of their misery. Go on, kill them. No, don't smash them. That would be a complete waste of a resource, wouldn't it? No. You see, your energy drains quickly in this land, and here, you need all the energy you can get. Go on, swallow them. Why are you so hesitant? It's not like you'll be able to taste them. Go ahead, consume. You know what you have to do. Don't you feel the empty pit in your stomach? How unsatisfied and unsaturated you feel. Go on, chew. You feel those grimy, filthy creatures wriggling in your mouth? Their smooth skin rubbing against your gums. You can feel them struggling, but ultimately being broken into bits as they run down your throat and into your stomach. Yes, feel yourself being replenished. Oh, what's this? You still have half your plate full? But you won't continue. Fine, but you need your energy, you know. I can make the pain in your arm worse, and I can burn you beyond belief, and beyond repair, should you make me. Now, I don't think you want that, do you? Go ahead, slide the rest into your mouth. Let them travel down your esophagus. There. Don't you feel better? Good. Now we can continue. Look to your right. You see the zipper in the floor? Go ahead and unzip it. Yes, unzip the floor. Now, climb into the hole you just unzipped. Oh, you don't want to? Well, I'm sure your nasty little stalker friend, who, may I add, is coming ever nearer to you as we speak, would be happy to help encourage you. Hey, you there. No, not the fellow performing the ritual. I mean you. The one who didn't follow through with the procedures. This person's doing pretty well, aren't they? Halfway there, and unlike you, they actually have a chance at living the rest of their life in peace. Now, of course, they can't hear me. They're stuck in the floor at the moment, right where I left them. Anyway, I'm sure a million questions are racing through your head right now. Now, allow me to introduce myself. I am the spirit who invented this ritual. I too was disturbed by the constant noise within the world. Everyone was always shouting and being so rude and belligerent. I just wanted an escape from it all. So, I created a safe haven where the senses don't apply. However, if humans wish to be granted entry to this world, they would need to prove to me that they truly deserved it. People like you, however, didn't feel the need to listen to me. So here you are, spectating this sacred ritual before I shred your body and every ounce of sense you have left. Now, I'm no doctor, but all that time in seclusion, away from noise, can be damaging to one. I suppose my isolation did have its drawbacks. But what's the big deal? Who needs to see other living, breathing life forms when one can sit alone and not be bothered by the problems of the world? Even beings such as myself prefer desolation to the outside world. But at what cost? The ability to have empathy for others? Tendencies to misguide others and lie? Well, a little trickery has never hurt anybody, has it? Has it? Okay, unzip yourself from the floor now. That thing is past, and it is safe to come out. Observe the world around you. You are no longer in a dark, desolate room, but rather a room of clocks. Tock goes the clock. Tick tock goes the clock. Tick tock goes the clock. Oh, what do you mean there are no ticking or talkings? These clocks are working perfectly fine. I checked them this morning. It couldn't possibly be that you... Can't hear them, could it? Oh, that's exactly what's happened. Welcome to Trial 3. Your journey will soon be over. Of all the clocks in the room, I'm sure you've already seen that the one you need to go to. That clock directly in front of you. Yes, it's huge, isn't it? Approach that clock and place your hand on the wood. Good. Now, close your eyes and feel the vibrations course through your veins. You can still feel those vibrations, right? Now, move your hand in a clockwise circle completely until you reach the point you started at. That's your 12. I'm sure you can guess where the rest of the numbers are. Place your hand on the numbers in the order of your birth date. Remember, don't lift your hand from the wood. That would have consequences which I'd rather not discuss, but you're running out of time. Good. Now that you're done with that, step backward and look up at the clock. There is now a staircase going up to the top of this giant clock. Walk up to the top of the staircase. You're now at the top of the clock. Good. Now, look down at the other smaller, lesser clocks. Feel the vibrations of the entire room. Feel them run through your body. Now close your eyes, and don't you dare open them. The beast is in the room with you, but don't run. Just saying those words, your heart rate increased heavily, didn't it? Well, you're going to have to settle down because this next step, in particular, is tricky. Keep focusing on the vibrations. Do you feel the rhythm? The pattern in which the clocks tick and tock. Try to match your breathing and heart rate to that of the vibrations. If you can do this, you'll be invisible to the creature. Now, this is not the best time to ask me why I didn't tell you that before, but the beast wasn't able to see you. Calm your breathing and go to the beat of the clock. The creature stalking you isn't one simply interested in murdering you. No, it has an actual plan. You see, in the sensory-deprived place, the beast has only one of its senses. That sense is hearing. Its hearing is so precise that it can distinguish between your breathing and the sound of the clock's ticking. You came here because you wanted a place where sound doesn't exist. Well, the creature wants you so it can steal your senses. Senses which it has been deprived of for quite some time. Now, you have completed the third stage. what I want you to do is jump off the clock you're currently standing on. Yes, I see that it's high above the ground. I still want you to jump. Would I ever lie to you? Of course not. When have I lied to you so far? This jump will lead you directly to your 4th trial. You're nearly there. Don't quit now. Besides, I'm sure the monster would love for me to tell it where you are. I hope that's enough of an incentive for you. Good. Now jump. Well, what do you think would happen upon jumping? Did you fall to the ground? Of course you did. That's how gravity works. Granted, this was mostly for my enjoyment, but I'm not sure what else you expected. Have a look around you. Is the landscape different again this time? Oh wait, you can't see. You've gone blind, haven't you? Well, you, my friend, are inside a system of tunnels and trails. The walls aren't too far apart, so you should be able to extend your arms and touch them. Feel that nice mossy texture? Now walk forward and guide yourself with your arms. What you need to do is find an exit to this maze. Continue walking forward until you feel the bump in the wall. Feel it? Grasp the bump and pull it downward. Congratulations, you just pulled a trap. Traps aren't good here, so I suggest you don't pull any more of them. Now, do you feel that sharp, searing pain digging into the meat of your leg? That's the trap at work. You wouldn't want to be caught in a trap because, well, as you can see, the blades are twisting and turning your skin and muscle tissue into pulp. Now, grab the walls and pull yourself out. Oh boy, it's a good thing you can't see your leg right now. Your skin is completely shredded below the thigh. Ugh. I'm surprised you're angry with me. You should have expected to make sacrifices. Can't just give gifts away for free, now can I? Now, keep walking before I activate a few more traps of my own accord. You know, you're lucky at being such as I would even consider giving you such a gift as this. Keep moving forward, you're almost done. Reach forward and grab the door handle. Pull it open and walk through. Your sight should be back by now. And you should be standing in a room similar to the one you started in. There's a flickering light and everything. Congratulations on passing the ritual. You have proven to me that you are truly deserving of your haven without sound. Now, stand still as I explain to you what this prize means. You have gone through the 4 trials of this ritual, and through them all, you have proven to me that you are capable of triumphing over the challenges. Now, don't mind the sensation of your skin sizzling. Those boiling bubbles are back, and not just on your arms and hands, but on your face, your legs, your torso as well. Now, I know you're in pain, but believe me, you will be utterly joyous when this is over. Can you feel the heat melting your nose away, leaving it just a charred blotch of burnt flesh? Feel your eyes disintegrate within seconds as the heat intensifies? You can even feel it inside your mouth, can't you? Burning the roof of your mouth and your tongue. I know you can't hear me right now. The pain you're in is probably too great to bear, but trust me, I'm fulfilling my promise to you, aren't I? By now, the only remnants of your previous self is your ears. Ironic, isn't it, that you wanted to lose your hearing, and yet the only sense you shall retain. Oh, God. Oh, whew. Don't worry, though. There aren't many causes of noise here, where you'll be staying. However, I can hear, based upon the desperate, drowned-out gurgles of agony escaping what was once your lips, that this outcome may not suit you well. You should have wanted this, so I'm confused as to why. Why this isn't to your liking. However, I'm sure that you'll enjoy the silence and solitude eventually. It worked wonders for me. However, if you want your old form back, I recommend finding the next person who performs this ritual and stealing their senses too. Don't worry about finding them. Your hearing will be precise enough. By the way, thanks for the rose you brought me. Smell wasn't exactly required, but I do wholeheartedly accept the gift. In fact, none of the sense trials were completely necessary. However, it does make for one hell of an entertaining story. Oh, and for those of you still listening to this, thank you for following through this journey. This has been a very rare success of this ritual, and I'm glad you could join me to witness it. Hold on a bit, I know I promised to strip you of your senses and emotions. However, there appears to be someone else attempting to perform the ritual. And by the looks of it, the one who most recently partook in this ritual is already anxious to meet them. Warning. If you have a heart condition, do not read this. You will drop to the floor, flopping like a fish while clenching your heart, seeing as you are having a heart attack. Also, if you have a sensitive anus, do not read this. The brick you will shat will be painful. A few years ago, a man was walking down a road because his car broke down, and he saw a car coming up behind him. So he stuck out his thumb to hitchhike. And then the car stopped ahead of him. He ran up to the passenger side and opened the door. When he opened the door, a skeleton popped out. I don't know if this is going to be able to reach anyone, but I'm running out of options. I'm a sound engineer living in the town of Larchester. Currently, I'm employed by a local radio station, helping running a show by a man named Ronnie Cox. It's just one of those radio shows where the DJ would answer calls intermittently throughout the day and also give his remarks on any number of subjects. The day started off fine. It was bright and sunny. The weather forecast said nothing about snow, let alone a blizzard as fierce as what is raging outside right now. I drove to the station, and when I came inside, I was greeted by both Ronnie and Stephanie, one of the producers for the show. They were having some argument about the time slot of the show, and Ronnie had been trying to pressure the higher-ups into granting more time into this show, but it was a rather useless argument since Stephanie herself had no control of the matter. Even so, Ronnie would regularly bring up the problems to her, no matter how many times she told him to take it up the station heads. David, you're here. Can you go into the booth and help set things back up again? Someone messed with the equipment, and it needs fixing, Stephanie said as I entered the building. It was that damn Murphy. I know it. Guy has a vegetable for a brain, I swear. Work quick, we're on air soon, Ronnie said. Right, I got it. I got the booth back up in working order, and then I went to take a seat at the control panel in the room just beside the booth. It wasn't long before Ronnie and Stephanie came in. Ronnie still complaining even as he entered the booth. Not really to anyone in particular, but just complaining. Stephanie took a seat next to me inside. I swear, he makes me want to blow my brains out, she said softly. A sentiment I could agree with. Ronnie was notoriously difficult to work with, sort of a diva personality where he thought he should have been bigger than what he actually was. 2 minutes until we go live, Stephanie said into the microphone that connected us to the booth. Ronnie put on a pair of headphones and shuffled a few papers in front of himself and gave us the thumbs up. Ronnie flipped the switch and went into his DJ persona. Hello, 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 people of Larchester. Ronnie Cox coming to you with today's episode of Cox Calls. I hope you all tuning in are having a wonderful morning. For those of you who are commuting right now, I hope you are enjoying the beautiful weather that we are having on this chilly December morning. Clear skies and the sun is shining high. Looking at the forecast here, it'll be like that all day. Ronnie flicked through the papers on his desk. I could see him frown a bit as he read through the notes. Now, today's topic is going to be on the Larchester Secret Santa project. Any of you lovely listeners out there participating in this yearly tradition, please call in and tell me about it. While we wait for callers, please enjoy some holiday classics. Ronnie flipped a switch on his control board and turned to us. Secret Santa? Really? You couldn't give me some better material to work with? He asked. Ronnie, it's a big thing here, you know that. And we were asked by the organizers to do this. Look, we got a few calls coming in right now, Stephanie replied. And Ronnie scoffed and flipped the switch back on. The first couple of calls went by like usual. One was a mother who talked about her kids participating in the event. The other was a high school kid who wondered if an adult toy could be considered a good gift to give. The kid got a few snorts out of Ronnie that he tried to contain as he proceeded to drop the call and reprimand the boy's behavior. Then came the third call. You're on the air with Ronnie. I'm gonna need to ask that we keep it PG here. Now, caller, what are your Secret Santa plans? On the other line was who I assumed to be a middle-aged man. His voice was filled with confusion. Ronnie, it was supposed to be a clear day, right? Don't know if you looked outside, but there's some snow coming down real hard now. Like, one moment it was sunny, the next I can hardly see 10 feet in front of me. Can you go check outside? Stephanie turned to me and asked. I nodded and got up to head into the lobby of the station and looked out through the glass doors. Sure enough, snow was starting to fall outside. As I stood there looking at the street, I noticed that the snowfall picked up into a blizzard in just a few moments. I could remember on my way to the station not seeing a cloud anywhere, so seeing this started to unnerve me. I took out my phone and checked the weather report. It still said there would be clear skies, but one look outside would prove it wrong. I walked back into the broadcasting room and told Stephanie about the blizzard. Thank you for the call. You know what they say about the weather here, folks. It changes on a dime. Now, I'm going to put on some tunes, and we will come back and take more calls momentarily, Ronnie said. What's going on out there? Ronnie asked. A blizzard. Seems it came out of nowhere. I'm going to try to get some more information on this. Just keep taking calls. I'll be back. I need to go grab my laptop from the car, Stephanie said. I watched her walk out of the room. Ronnie just shrugged and took another call. Caller, you're on the air with Ronnie. The anxious voice of the man came through. It was apparent by the tone of his voice something was wrong. Ronnie, I have a problem, the man said. What is it, caller? Need gift ideas? No, you don't understand. The angry tone of the caller's voice startled both me and Ronnie. I've been trying to head to my job in the next town over, but ever since this blizzard started, I swear, I'm not going anywhere. What are you talking about? Ronnie asked. I've been driving in a straight line for miles now. I should have hit the highway 10 minutes ago. I have checked the mile markers and they keep repeating. Not only that, I keep coming across other cars just parked in the middle of the road, empty. Some of them I recognize haven't driven past me. Something is going on out here. Stephanie came back into the room, laptop under her arm. Opening it up, she sat down next to me. This is a weird one, I told her. Guy can't seem to leave town. Calm down now. Is this some kind of joke you're pulling? Ronnie asked. This isn't a joke! Oh, God, there's another one. I just saw the truck go by me 10 minutes ago. Where did they go? The man said. That makes no sense. Tell me why someone would get out of the car in the middle of a blizzard. I don't know. I think I'm going to try and turn around. I need to head back into town. Wait. What is that? Something is coming out of the forest. It's people. They're walking out onto the road. They look wrong. There's something with them that... What the hell is that? That can't be real. I gotta get the fuck out of here. At this point, Ronnie had gone silent. I could tell by the look on his face he was just as unsettled by the call as Stephanie and I. No, shit! My engine died! It's coming towards me. Please, help! The call suddenly cut off. Ronnie sat there, silent for a few moments. Listeners, I'm not quite sure what that was. It could have been a prank call, but I'm gonna try to get some information on what's going on. In the meantime, here is a word from our sponsors. After Ronnie cut the microphone, he looked over at us. Jesus, what the fuck is going on? He asked. Stephanie was browsing through the internet, but couldn't find any information at all. It was as if no one else had any clue as to what was going on here. Stephanie even tried to contact the local police department, but strangely enough, her call never got through to anyone. I noticed that numerous calls were coming in on the line now. Maybe we should try taking more calls, I said, thinking that getting information from people in town was going to be our best bet. Let's try that. Ready, Ronnie? Stephanie asked. Ronnie nodded and went back on the air. Listeners, we're going to change our conversation subject for the day to this strange blizzard that is raging outside. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Caller, what's your take on it? That guy that just called, he wasn't lying. There's something out there. The voice belonged to a young woman. I just went outside to bring my dogs in from the weather, and when I went to get them out of their cage, I saw them barking like mad at the woods. My house is on the edge of the forest. Can't be more than 10 meters away. Right when I opened up the cage, they bolted into the trees. A few seconds later, I could hear them hollering and yelping from the woods. Something got them, I know it. You think something attacked your dogs, miss? Ronnie asked. I know something did. Something was hurting them real bad. Those noises, I've never heard animals sounds like that. I could tell the woman on the other end was starting to cry. Ma'am, I think you should lock your doors and call the police. This is a job for them to sort out. I tried calling them. No one answered. Well, they might just be swarmed with calls. You should try again, Ronnie said. The woman was silent for a little while, but I could just make out the sound of her breathing. Ma'am, you still there? Oh, my babies. I can hear them out there. I've got to get them inside. They need my help. The woman said, You should stay inside. It'd be dangerous to head out there. I can't just leave them out there. They need my help. The woman said, hanging up the phone. Again, the three of us were left uneasy. It was clear that something very odd was happening, yet for some reason there was no official say on the matter in any form. Part of me wanted to head back into the lobby and take a look outside to see if there was anything strange outside of the building. At the same time, I began to feel afraid. Afraid of what I might end up noticing or that might notice me. You should tell people to stay inside. We should give them some advice until the situation's figured out, Stephanie said to Ronnie through shaky breaths. I could tell she wasn't used to dealing with this kind of stuff. None of us were. This was just supposed to be a casual radio show in a sleepy little town. Something like this, it just burrowed dread into the pit of my stomach. Listeners, I urge you to stay inside of your homes. Until this situation gets figured out, we should all be as safe as possible. Lock your doors and windows and stay inside. I'm sure the police will have a statement ready for us in any time now. I see we still have some callers, so let's take another one. Next caller, you are on the air. I'm working over at the gas station at Hoxton in Maine. For the past while now, there have been people just standing outside the station. I'd already locked up before they got here, but Lucky I did, because they tried getting in. The hell are the police doing? This caller was another man, his voice shaken with fear. This caller was another man, his voice stricken with fear. Who is trying to get inside? Ronnie asked. I don't know. They look human, but there's something wrong with them. They got this pale blue skin, nothing but white in their eyes. They're unnatural. You're saying these individuals aren't human? No way they are. And you don't want them to notice you. Only bad shit will happen if they do. Like what? I couldn't tell you for sure, but all I know is that now and then I hear people screaming. Like, screaming for their lives, and suddenly they go dead silent. They're doing something to people. I've been holed up in the office and watching the security camera feed. While I haven't seen what they do with them, but I've noticed something strange about them. Each of them have this cable coming out of the back of their heads. Cable? Yeah, it looks like a big cable. Whatever the cables connect to is off camera. Maybe whatever they're connected to is the cause of all this. Like, they could be getting controlled by something. As the conversation went on, I could feel the terror in my stomach well up. I got up and I headed over to the door. I needed to check if there was anyone outside the station. All I needed to do was peek out. My hand trembled as I grasped onto the doorknob and twisted it. I cracked the door open and looked out into the lobby. I nearly shouted when I saw a group of people all standing at the front door, their skin a pale blue and eyes pure white. Immediately I shut the door and staggered back. What is it? Stephanie asked. They're here, I muttered. As soon as what I said registered with her, I could see a look of fear in her eyes as the reality of the situation came crashing down. No longer was this just accounts of some callers. No, whatever had come to the town was now just outside. Shit! I heard the caller shout. They're busting in the windows. Oh, fuck, they're inside. Please, God, no, not like this. Over the line were the sounds of a door being bashed over and over again until there was a loud crack. What's happening over there? Hey, Ronnie yelled. Gradually the caller's screams got further and further away until they abruptly stopped. Sir, are you still there? Ronnie asked. Ronnie, whatever those things are, they're here, Stephanie said. I could see Ronnie mouthing something to himself as his hands shook uncontrollably. Then came a voice over the line. Not from the man who had called, but it was something else. A voice of something calm and collected, which uttered just 3 words. Let me in. A sudden high-pitched shriek sounded over the line, causing Ronnie to throw his headphones across the room and each of us to desperately cover our ears. Then the power went out, plunging the room into darkness and silence, save for the sounds of the wind blowing outside. The 3 of us have been staying in here ever since then, not daring to try to leave. We barricaded the door to the room as best we could, but it would only be a matter of time before they got in. I'm using Stephanie's laptop to type all this out right now in hopes that it reaches somebody that can help. They just broke the glass to the door. I pray that if they get into this room, that whatever happens to us, it's over fast. I killed my wife last night. I did it because she was cheating on me. Okay, so I don't have any tangible proof, but every time she came home, I could smell the cologne of other men on her. Try putting yourself in my shoes, slogging through the door after a hard day's work, and giving your wife a kiss only to inhale the scent of another man on her clothes. I mean, so what if she worked in the cologne department at Macy's? That's not an excuse. She was cheating on me. I can tell you that for sure, alright? and I had enough of it. Nobody cheats on Phineas P. Waldsworth. That's not my name, but nobody cheats on me either. The point is, the bitch had to die. I've never murdered a person before. I guess I always pictured it would go more smoothly. In the movies, when someone gets their throat slashed, they bleed a little and usually die in a neat and instantaneous death. Quick and clean. That's how it's supposed to be. I snuck up behind her, and after she had fallen asleep on the couch watching Real Housewives of Timbuktu, or some other vapid reality show, then opened her throat with a kitchen knife. She gushed like a geyser. You should have seen it. I didn't know a person's body could hold so much blood. I'm not ashamed to admit, I got a little lightheaded from the sight. Well, it certainly wasn't a neat kill, and it wasn't a quick one either, for that matter. My wife fell to the floor after I sliced into her neck and began to wildly thrash her arms and legs. I'm sure she would have been screaming too if it hadn't done a number on her vocal cords. It took a dozen or more stabs to her windpipe before she finally stopped moving. I was kind of disappointed when I realized that the knife I had used was a wedding present from my late Aunt Carla. She was my favorite auntie, and the damn thing held a lot of sentimental value to me, but now I have to get rid of it. There was no way I was going to be able to keep the murder weapon in my house. That would just be crazy. Once I was sure my wife was finally dead, I looked around the house to survey the damage. Both our bodies and half the living room was completely soaked in blood. I dragged her into the bathroom and dumped her body in the tub. The mess took hours to clean up, but I think I did a bang-up job. I got that living room looking like something you'd see Martha Stewart bedazzling throw pillows in. All I have to say is, thank goodness for hardwood floors. It would have been a hell of a lot harder if we had laid down carpeting like my wife insisted when we first moved in. I patted myself on the back for putting my foot down on nixing that idea. After I was done cleaning, I went back inside the bathroom and tried to figure out what to do with her cadaver. I always do my best thinking on the can, so I popped a squat next to her and began to make a number 2. What? I didn't think she was going to mind. I was just beginning to breach when I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. Her stomach had begun moving, heaving up and down at an alarming rate. It startled me so much I nearly fell off the pot. Was she breathing? I felt a wave of guilt begin to wash over me. How selfish of me to not turn on the vent. A second wave smacked me in the face, but this time it was fear. How could she be alive? I thought to myself. She must have spilled enough blood to fill a dumpster. I tried to reassure myself that it wasn't what it looked like. I remember once reading in a magazine that gas can escape a body sometimes hours after death. This can give the appearance of breathing, but does not actually mean that the body is doing so. Just as my heartbeat had begun returning to its normal cadence, I could have sworn I saw her fingers twitch. The sight made me want to get up and sprint as far away from the house as possible, turtle head poking out of my crack and all. A scene from an old television show jogged my memory, though, allowing me to collect myself. In it, a crime scene investigator explained to a plucky young police officer that even though a person's brain may be dead, their body's muscles can still twitch for a little while after they pass. See, I thought to myself as I pushed a little harder trying to coax the chocolate bunny from its hole, there is always a logical conclusion for these type of things. Sometimes things can't be explained, though. I realized that when my wife turned her partially detached neck towards me and opened her eyes. The look of rage on her face made me want to scream, but I was too terrified to make a peep. She opened her mouth, and I'll never forget the gurgling voice as it reverberated off the bathroom walls. Light a match.